Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today we're going to talk about Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. We're going to talk about the power of the bell. So I've been thinking a lot about bells in Dungeons & Dragons. I think we're underusing them. So let's talk about this. So I was listening to the New York Times, and they were just talking about someone who had actually done some pretty specific research work about bells and how they had been used in Europe. So there's this one specific European nation that had monks, and it was about 1,200 years ago. So I think this is like in 800 A.D. And basically, this community had several monk. Where do monks stay? It's not abbeys. It's like it's not a convent either. Oh, monastery. Sorry. So they had two or three monasteries in the local area, and essentially in these monasteries monks lived. Okay, and basically what happened was the monks were all connected to a religious order, and the religious order did not actually sell anything. They wanted to keep themselves pure, so they didn't engage in commercialism. And so they just, they only sold these, they didn't sell anything, right? So these monks lived, and they would just, study their sacred texts and interact with the community in beneficial ways. But the way that they would eat is literally the generosity of the community, right? And so basically, like 2/3 of the year, the community would give them everything they needed to eat and to live, right? And they didn't have a commercial life. But this failed at times. Sometimes the community would be like, we're busy with this, maybe it's harvest time, or maybe we're just distracted with like the circus like a traveling circus is in town or whatever. But the monks would get nothing, and they would begin to starve, okay? And this New York Times story talked about the starving bell, right? So it was a bell that they would ring, that the monasteries would ring, and what it meant was, we are starving. We have no food, and people are beginning to starve to death, right? It was called the starving bell. And when this starving bell was rung, people would rush out to the monasteries and bring food, right? Now, there was a flow of information, for this. So one, it was agreed upon that, throughout the year, the community would support these non-commercial monks, right? But then if things got really bad, the monks would hit the bell, but the monks couldn't be ringing that bell all the time, right? And if they did ring the bell frequently, like once a month, what it meant was that their lifestyle had completely failed, right? And that all the monks needed to go get jobs, right? So basically it was on the monks to not overring the bell, and it was on the community to respond to the bell. And this did work. It worked for, I think, a couple centuries at least, right? But the starving bell, when I heard that, I was like, that is a powerful tale, right? So how do we use this in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition? So I think the starving bell can definitely be used there, but what we want to do is we want to connect it to something else. So I'm going to give you a few different ways to use this in your Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So the first thing that you want to use it for is, I love the travel aspect of Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. So what is the travel aspect? The travel aspect is, hey, I'm an adventurer, and I'm traveling from Phandalin to Neverwinter, or I'm traveling from Neverwinter to Waterdeep, right? Or I'm traveling from Waterdeep to Mount Hotanau, and it's really cool, like just the way you can travel from place to place. And when you do, you go through these beautiful vistas, wide open plains, right? Deep forests, right? Across the lower base areas of a mountain, right? A craggy, stony mountain, right? So, or you might be going through the fetid, moist areas of a swamp, right? Or you might be traveling along the beautiful coast, near sheer blue crystal, saltwater beach, right? And when you're traveling, you can put right there in the middle of your adventure a bell, right? And so the bell is going to be 20 feet tall, right? It's going to have a gigantic 6-foot bell that hangs from these stone arches that are carved with, And there's a big question mark. What are carved on it? Are there dragons carved on the bell, on the bell arches, right? Is there a beautiful person carved on one side of the arch, and then a hideous figure carved on the other side of the arch, right? And so the bell is there, and this gigantic, huge bell, and it has a thick, right, like 5-inch rope hanging from it, and the rope can be rung, right? The rope can be pulled, and the bell can be rung, right? So there's one encounter right there, right? Now, in order to do this, though, you have to know what the bell triggers. But you can put it in front of your players, and they have no idea what it triggers, right? They don't know what ringing the bell will cause, right? But right there, you just have this nice little encounter where they come across this bell, they do insights on it, but they don't, and they get some of the information they need, but they really don't have any idea what this bell is going to do or not do, right? And then they either ring the bell, and then the thing happens, or they carry on, and when they get to the next village or town, they can ask people about the bell, right? And then they can know whether they should ring the bell or not, right? So the starving bell is a real IRL thing that happened in our world, right? But the mystery bell, I really think, this is a powerful, nice little encounter you can drop anywhere into Faerun, Eberron, Ravnica, Theros. You could drop this into the upcoming, any of the existing 5th edition you can put this on Arcavios for Strixhaven, right? There's just a lot of cool places that you can place this bell, right? And I love mysteries in the game. And when I heard about this starving bell, it just really excited me. The other thing to take note of with the starving bell, and which we're going to convert into a mystery bell in our Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition game, is you want to communicate to your players the beauty. Why do we come to Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, right? Why does it become our primary game? Well, there's one reason, and the reason is it allows us to create a beautiful alternate world where our player characters can participate in unbound identity and in unbound immersion, right? And when we do that, one of the things that's really beautiful about the settings in Dungeons & Dragons, because they're fundamentally grounded in medieval feudalism, is specifically, right? Specifically, we are connecting. We're connecting to a slow communication world. Our world has such dramatically fast, dramatically open communication that in many ways the value of the word is declining, okay? We send messages for everything. And one of the things that's happening is words are being drowned out by human words. The value of human words is starting to very much be drowned out. And one of the reasons why is there's a ton of communication that is coming from non-humans. There's a lot of non-human daemons, non-human algorithms, non-human sources that are speaking, right? That are calling out to us, right? And so in this way, the human word is becoming devalued in our modern society, right? It's becoming less because there's so much speech. And speech is so free and so open and so immediate that its value is shrinking, right? But when we go into Dungeons & Dragons, words matter more than ever, right? And when our player characters speak, the whole world listens. And they adjust their behavior based on our speech. Whereas right now, we can say a thing and nobody can care, right? And I think a lot of humans are in that space right now. And they speak and nobody cares about what they said because somebody's literally listening to a daemon that told them something else to do, a non-human source, and another person is saying, oh, I'm going to go do what this non-human source told me to do, rather than value as a human and listen to what you're saying, right? And so when we come across this bell, it just shows us how communication in the medieval feudalism is so dramatically different. And when that bell is rung, everyone within a vicinity of the sound will hear it, and they'll all have a communal knowledge of what it means, right? Rather than this incredibly fractured communication that we currently have, right? So I think that we look at the starving bell in real life, We turn it into the mystery bell in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, and it triggers us to think deeply about communication in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, which is fundamentally grounded in medieval feudalism, and their communication was fundamentally different than ours. And I think we should really think about what human communication means today and how we value it. All that's my opinion. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you make the bell do? How would you fill the mystery? What would you carve onto each of the arches, right? How would you use the mystery bell in your Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, do you think I'm right that as more and more non-human sources are speaking, human voices are being heard less and less and less in that, and actually not being heard, actually, yes, I think maybe even being heard less and less, and that the human word today, human speech today, is being devalued because there are these daemons and these other non-sources that are starting to speak in addition to humans. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Let me know in the comments below. Please consider liking and subscribing, and have a wonderful, wonderful millennium.